September 11, 2001, 9:47 a.m., South Tower, floor 68. Firefighter Tom Sullivan collapses against a wall, oxygen running low, radio crackling with evacuation orders. A black woman in a blood-soaked business suit lies crumpled beside burning desks, her left leg shattered below the knee. "Leave me," she whispers. He ignores her. 80 floors down, 200 pounds of gear, one functional stairwell. The building shakes. His radio screams that the tower's coming down. She clutches a burnt photograph from her desk drawer, won't let go even as consciousness fades. Every 10 floors takes 15 minutes. His knees buckle. Other firefighters pass them going up. None come back. At floor 12, she goes unconscious. He feels the tower convulse, keeps moving. They exit at 9:55 a.m. 4 minutes later, the South Tower collapses. 20 years later, that photograph would save his life. But first, she had to vanish. Tom Sullivan made a choice on floor 68 that morning that defied every protocol in the FDNY handbook. The order was clear: evacuate immediately. The South Tower had 17 minutes left standing, though nobody knew that yet. He was 32 years old, 7 years on the job, carrying 60 pounds of equipment up a stairwell filled with smoke and bodies. When he found her, leg twisted at an angle that made his stomach turn, blood pooling around her knee, he should have kept moving. That's what the manual said. That's what survival said. He knelt down instead. She was conscious then, barely, eyes wide with shock. "I can't feel my leg," she said. He looked at the photograph clutched in her right hand, knuckles white around the frame. Glass shattered, paper scorched black at the edges. A little girl's face, maybe 6 years old, smiling at a birthday party. The woman wouldn't let go. Tom lifted her onto his shoulders in a fireman's carry. Her scream echoed through the stairwell. 4 minutes is the difference between legend and dust. The chaos at Bellevue Hospital that day swallowed thousands. Tom carried her through the emergency entrance at 10:13 a.m., sirens wailing, dust covering both of them head to toe like ancient statues. Nurses took her immediately. Severe compound fracture, possible internal bleeding, shock. He set her on the gurney. She was unconscious by then, but her hand still gripped that photograph. A nurse had to pry her fingers open. Tom watched them wheel her toward surgery, then turned and walked back toward ground zero. He didn't get her name, didn't think to ask. There were still people in the rubble. 3 days later, when the adrenaline finally broke and he remembered her face, he went back to Bellevue. The hospital had admitted over 300 patients on September 11th. Records were chaos, handwritten logs, computer systems down, patients transferred between facilities without documentation. No one could tell him which Jane Doe he was looking for. No black woman with a shattered femur matched his description in their system. By September 14th, she'd been discharged, vanished into the aftermath. The only evidence she'd ever existed was the burnt photograph, which a nurse found in the trauma bay and handed to him in a plastic evidence bag. He kept it. Some people are saved to disappear. Tom's life after the towers followed a pattern thousands of first responders knew too well. PTSD diagnosis in 2002. 47 funerals between September and December 2001, firefighters, cops, paramedics he'd worked beside for years. The photograph became a ritual. He kept it in his locker at the firehouse in Brooklyn, looked at it every shift. Tried to remember her face. Couldn't. Just the blood and the way she held that picture like it was the only thing left in the world worth saving. His marriage failed in 2005. His wife couldn't compete with ghosts. Drinking started in 2007, beer at first, then whiskey, then whatever was closest. He'd wake up on the couch in the firehouse, photograph on the floor, beside him. Captain benched him in 2009, forced medical leave. The city asked him to do interviews, local news, national segments, documentary crews. They always wanted to know about the woman. He had no answers, just a burnt photograph and a memory that felt more like a dream every year. By 2015, he was sober. 30 days, then 90, then a year. He quit the department, opened a small auto repair garage in Bed-Stuy, sold the photograph story to himself as a reminder. Some things you can't fix, only carry. Heroes don't get closure, just questions. Late November 2019. Tom woke up coughing blood into his kitchen sink. He was 50 years old, hadn't smoked in a decade, ran 3 miles every morning. The cough had been there for months. Dry, persistent, the kind that rattled his ribs at 3 a.m. His doctor ordered scans, stage 4 lung cancer, non-small cell carcinoma, the kind that grows silent and fast. The oncologist showed him the x-rays, tumors in both lungs, lymph nodes lit up like a Christmas tree. Tower dust, the doctor said quietly. We're seeing this in a lot of first responders. It was officially recognized now, 9/11 related illness, compensation authorized, treatment covered. None of that mattered if you couldn't find a donor. Tom needed a bone marrow transplant. His blood type was AB negative, rare enough that matches were hard to find even in a national registry. They searched. 3 months passed. No compatible donors emerged. By February 2020, his oncologist laid out the timeline, 6 months, maybe 8, with aggressive chemo. Tom sat in the office staring at the wall. He thought about the woman on floor 68. Wondered if she'd made it past 2002, wondered if that little girl in the photograph ever knew her mother almost died that day. The towers take you slow or fast, never in between. January 18th, 2021. Tom found the envelope in his mailbox at 6 a.m., still dark outside. Brooklyn streets empty and cold. No return address, just his name typed. Across the front. Inside a hospital appointment card. Mount Sinai Oncology Department, January 19th, 9 a.m. He hadn't scheduled anything. Beneath the card, folded neatly, was a newspaper clipping from September 2002. The headline, Firefighter searched for woman he saved. A photo of Tom in his dress uniform holding the burnt photograph. He called Mount Sinai. The receptionist confirmed the appointment. Your donor requested you specifically, she said. Tom's throat tightened. What donor? Pause. I can't disclose that information, HIPAA regulations, but you're scheduled for a pre-transplant consultation. He hung up, stared at the envelope. Someone had found him. Someone who knew about the cancer, knew about his blood type, knew he was on the transplant list. Someone who'd been watching. The clipping was dated 19 years ago. Whoever sent this had kept that article for nearly 2 decades. Tom drove to the hospital the next morning, hands shaking on the wheel. The burnt photograph sat in his glove compartment, same plastic sleeve, same charred edges. He hadn't looked at it in months. Now it felt like evidence. Sometimes debts take 20 years to pay. Tom hired Ray Caruso, an old friend from the fire department who'd retired and started doing private investigation work in 2018. Ray was good with databases, patient with bureaucracy. They met at a diner in Queens. Tom laid out what he knew. Anonymous donor, Mount Sinai, AB negative blood type, appointment scheduled without his consent. Ray took notes on a napkin. You thinking it's her? Tom shrugged. I don't know. Maybe. Ray spent 3 days cross-referencing survivor lists, bone marrow registries, and Mount Sinai's donor database. What he found made no sense. An anonymous donor had registered in September 2020, 13 months ago. The registration included a specific stipulation in the medical notes. For Thomas Sullivan, FDNY only. No other patients, no general registry. The donor had somehow bypassed standard protocols, used medical credentials to access the transplant list, found Tom's name, and locked themselves to him exclusively. Ray ran a background check on the donor ID number. The social security number came back false, formatted correctly, but not issued to any living person. Whoever this was had created a ghost identity inside a hospital system. The FBI wouldn't help. No crime had been committed. Medical privacy laws made it impossible to force disclosure. Tom sat across from Ray in the diner booth, staring at the napkin covered in notes. "So what now?" Ray looked up. "You go to the appointment, and you ask questions. Ghosts don't register at hospitals." Tom's phone rang at 11 p.m. on January 20th, 2 days after the Mount Sinai appointment. He'd gone, met with doctors, signed consent forms. They wouldn't tell him anything about the donor except that compatibility testing was already complete, 94% match, exceptionally high for an unrelated donor. The surgery was scheduled for March. He answered the phone. Block number. A woman's voice, calm and clear. "You don't remember me, but I remember every step." Tom sat up in bed. "Who is this?" She ignored the question. "Floor 68, South Tower. September 11th, 2001, 9:47 a.m. You found me near the northwest stairwell. My femur was shattered. You told me you weren't leaving without me." Tom's heart hammered. "I looked for you. After you were gone." Silence on the line. Then, "I know." Her voice cracked slightly. "I saw the interviews, the newspaper articles. You kept the photograph. How do you—" "Names didn't matter then," she said. "They don't matter now." Tom gripped the phone. "Why are you doing this?" Another pause. "You carried me 80 floors. I was 140 pounds. You weighed a 190 with 60 pounds of gear. That's 390 pounds on stairs for 70 minutes. Your knees should have shattered, but you didn't stop." "That doesn't answer." She hung up. Tom sat in the dark, phone still pressed to his ear. 20 years. She'd been alive for 20 years and never once reached out. Until now. Until he was dying. Some people save you twice, once from death, once from forgetting. February 12, 2021. She agreed to meet. Small cafe in Harlem, 125th Street, 2 p.m. Tom brought the burnt photograph in its plastic sleeve. He sat by the window, coffee untouched, watching every woman who walked past. At 2:17 she arrived, mid-50s, black, silver streaks in her hair pulled back in a tight bun. She walked with a slight limp, left leg stiff at the knee, carried a worn leather briefcase. She sat down across from him without asking. Tom stared. Her face. He couldn't remember it clearly from that day. Everything had been smoke and blood and chaos. But her eyes. He remembered her eyes. "Michelle Warren," she said quietly. Extended her hand. He shook it. Her grip was firm. "You were finance executive, Cantor Fitzgerald North Tower. Was supposed to be there that morning. Meeting got moved to South Tower, 68th floor, 9 a.m. Her voice was steady, clinical. "American Airlines Flight 11 hit the North Tower at 8:46. I was in the South Tower conference room when it happened. We thought we were safe. They told us to stay put." Tom nodded. Everyone remembered that. The announcement over the PA system. "Remain calm, the South Tower is secure." "United 175 hit our building at 9:03, Michelle continued. "I was grabbing files from my temporary desk when the impact threw me across the room. Desk collapsed, steel beam came down on my leg." She stopped, looked at the photograph in Tom's hands. Her expression crumbled. "Trauma doesn't choose careers, it creates them." Michelle reached for the photograph with shaking fingers. Tom slid it across the table. She held it up to the light, tears running down her face. "Hope," she whispered. "My daughter. She was 6. Tom waited. Michelle set the photo down carefully. "I grabbed it when the first plane hit. Everyone was running. I went back to My desk for this stupid almost got killed for a picture. She wiped her eyes. After you got me out, after surgery, physical therapy, months of recovery, I couldn't face you, couldn't face anyone. You carried me. I couldn't even walk. Took 3 years before I could stand without crutches. Tom leaned forward. Why didn't you find me? I looked everywhere. I know, Michelle said. I saw the articles, the interviews. I watched you on the news holding this photograph, asking if anyone recognized the woman. I wanted to call. But what was I supposed to say? Thank you for saving my life while I hid in shame? Her voice hardened. I lost everything that day. My job, my marriage, my husband couldn't handle what I became. The woman who couldn't walk, couldn't work, couldn't be the person I was before. She paused. So I rebuilt. Physical therapy became my obsession. Then medical school. I became an oncologist in 2012. Tom's eyes widened. Michelle nodded. I specialize in treating 9/11 first responders, tower dust cases, lung cancer, mesothelioma, the slow deaths nobody talks about. She met his gaze. I've been treating your people for 9 years, paying it forward. Then I saw your name on the transplant list in September 2020. Some debts compound interest for decades. Michelle opened her briefcase, pulled out medical files, her own. AB negative blood type, same as you. She slid the papers across. I started testing myself in 2015 when the 9/11 Health Registry opened donor databases. I knew someday one of you would need me. Tom scanned the documents. Bone marrow compatibility analysis, genetic markers, tissue typing, all dated September 2020. You've been planning this for 5 years? Michelle shook her head. I've been ready for 5 years. I started planning the day I saw your name. She pulled out another paper, the transplant registry printout. Thomas Sullivan, FDNY, AB negative. Stage 4 lung cancer, critical need status. Mount Sinai flagged you in the system. I have medical credentials. I accessed the list, registered as your exclusive donor, and locked the match. Tom stared at her. You could die doing this. Bone marrow extraction isn't. You could have died 80 times on those stairs, Michelle interrupted. Her voice was quiet but fierce. Your knees could have given out, your oxygen could have failed. The building could have collapsed 10 minutes earlier. But you didn't stop. You didn't leave me. She leaned back. The mathematics of sacrifice don't balance, Tom. They multiply. You gave me 20 years I shouldn't have had. 20 years with my daughter. I watched her graduate high school, college. I walked her down the aisle last year. I held my grandson 2 months ago. Her voice broke. You think I'm risking my life? You already gave me a second one. Tom looked down at the photograph. Hope, 6 years old, smiling at a birthday party. He thought about all the birthdays after, all the moments that shouldn't have existed. Michelle was right. The math didn't balance. It never would. The mathematics of sacrifice don't balance. They multiply. March 15th, 2021. Mount Sinai Hospital, 6 a.m. Tom lay on a gurney in pre-op, IV in his arm staring at the ceiling tiles. Michelle was 2 rooms down, undergoing bone marrow extraction. The procedure would take 4 hours, long needles into her pelvic bone, harvesting stem cells that would be filtered, processed, and transplanted into Tom's bloodstream by evening. Dr. Patel, the lead oncologist, had warned them both. This isn't without risk. Michelle, you'll be under general anesthesia. Infection is possible. Tom, your immune system will be destroyed before we introduce the new cells. If something goes wrong, they'd both sign the forms anyway. At 9 a.m., Tom was wheeled into the transplant unit. They'd already started the conditioning treatment. High-dose chemotherapy to kill his existing bone marrow, wipe out his immune system, make space for Michelle's cells. He felt like he was being erased. At 2 p.m., Michelle's daughter arrived. Hope Warren, 26 years old, with her mother's eyes and her grandmother's smile. She stood beside Tom's bed, holding a baby in her arms. Her son, 3 months old, wrapped in a blue blanket. She wanted you to meet him, Hope said softly. Tom looked at the baby, thought about the photograph. This was the little girl who smiled at that birthday party in 2001. Now she was a mother. Because of 80 floors and 4 minutes. Hope leaned down. My mom told me what you did. I don't remember that day. I was too young, but I remember the years after. Her learning to walk again, her crying at night, her fighting to become someone new. She touched Tom's hand. You gave her back to me, thank you. At 6 p.m., Michelle's bone marrow entered Tom's bloodstream through a central line. 94% compatibility. The cells found home. Blood remembers what memory forgets. 6 months passed. By September 2021, Tom's cancer was in neo-remission. The tumors had shrunk, lymph nodes clear, lung function improving. He'd gained back 20 pounds, stopped needing oxygen at night. Michelle's cells had taken root, rebuilt his immune system from scratch. He was alive because of her. But Michelle was dying. The bone marrow extraction had gone smoothly at first. Standard recovery, minimal pain, discharged after 2 days. Then 3 weeks post-procedure, infection set in. Sepsis resistant to antibiotics spreading through her bloodstream. She was hospitalized at Mount Sinai for 3 weeks in April. Tom visited every day, brought her books, sat beside her bed, read aloud when she was too weak to hold the pages herself. The roles had reversed. Hospital staff whispered when he walked the halls. That's the firefighter from 9/11, the one who carried her down. Michelle survived the infection, but it weakened her permanently. Her kidneys showed damage. Her energy never fully returned. By summer, she'd taken medical leave from her practice. Couldn't work full shifts anymore, couldn't stand for long periods. Tom watched her decline with a helplessness that felt exactly like floor 68 in reverse. This time, he couldn't carry her out. Dr. Patel was blunt in August. The extraction didn't cause this directly, but it stressed her system. Given her age and the trauma her body endured in 2001, the combination. He trailed off. Tom understood. Michelle had traded years of her life for his. The mathematics still didn't balance. In late August, Tom sat beside her hospital bed during another overnight stay. She was asleep, monitors beeping softly. He thought about the stairs. Every step down, her weight on his shoulders, his knees screaming. He'd carried her then because it was the right thing to do. She'd carried him now for the same reason. Every rescue has a cost. You just don't see it until later. September 11th, 2021. 20th anniversary. Tom and Michelle stood together at the 9/11 memorial beside the South Pool, where the South Tower once stood. Michelle leaned on a cane now, but she was standing. Hope stood beside her, holding her grandson. 3 generations. The reflecting pool stretched out before them, names etched in bronze around the edges. Tom found the names he knew. 47 firefighters he'd buried in 2001. Michelle found colleagues from Cantor Fitzgerald, 658 employees lost that day. She'd survived because of a meeting moved to the wrong building. They stood in silence as the names were read aloud. At noon, Tom reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out the burnt photograph, now restored and sealed in a new frame. He'd had it professionally cleaned, the char marks removed as much as possible, the image enhanced. Hope's 6-year-old face smiled up at them, clearer now than it had been in 20 years. Tom handed it to Michelle. This belongs to you. Michelle shook her head. You kept it for 2 decades. It's yours. No, Tom said quietly. It was always yours. I was just holding it. Michelle took the frame with trembling hands, looked at her daughter's face, frozen in time before the world changed. Then she reached into her own bag, pulled out a new photograph. Michelle, Hope, and Hope's son, 3 generations together, taken last month. She handed it to Tom. Trade. He took it, stared at the 3 faces. Michelle met his eyes. We're even now? Tom looked at her, the cane, the exhaustion in her face, the years she'd given him. He thought about the stairs, the blood, the weight, 20 years of searching, 20 years of guilt, 20 years of wondering if she'd survived. We'll never be even, he said finally. That's the point. Some people carry you 80 floors. Some carry you 20 years. The weight is the same. That daddy